Thank you for having us here today. I'm Sally Porter, and we were brought here by the Immune study as part of the participants. Our schools, excuse me, our schools have emergency drills: earthquake, fire, shooter, tornado. We train and prepare for those disasters. Those words, train and prepare, are so important. Excuse me. Are so important for those drills and for those of us with children with life-threatening food allergies. Our son Charlie was one when he had his first bite. It took less than a minute for his face, eyes, and throat to swell. It felt like a lot longer for the ambulance to arrive. What we saw that day was terrifying. I'm so sorry. Wow, I've practiced even. A small bite of something that kids eat every day, that his brother eats all the time, that we eat. How could it be? How could something as stupid as a peanut butter and jelly put my baby's life in danger? That day over 15 years ago was and still is seared in our minds. We had trained ourselves, we had prepared ourselves for the worst. We trained him and his brother what to do when the inevitable happened. We prepared ourselves, our families, our community. When he was younger, it was easy to control when and where he would go, and who he was with, and most importantly, what he ate. Charlie's entered middle school. We realized that the control that we knew, and that in high school, it would be even less. He would be making new friends and eating new foods. Would he have his epinephrine? He knew he was supposed to carry it all the time, but did he? Would his friends think he was being dramatic if he needed help? What if there was cross-contamination? We couldn't train and prepare when we couldn't control. Teenage boys have the highest death rate because they're risk takers. It's what they do, whether it's riding a bike too fast, or water skiing at night, or doing flips into a pool. Those are teenage risks. Eating a cookie or trying a new food should not be a life-threatening risk. When Immune Therapeutics' peanut allergy study came out, we went with Charlie to learn more, and he was ready. We had spent so many years telling him that any peanut exposure would kill him that he was scared to try it earlier. It was important that he knew he was now ready. He had to prove he had an allergy. Do I push this? There we go. He had to prove he had an allergy through skin, blood, and oral challenges. The first two were relatively easy, but the third one, eating it, was a little bit harder to train for. When you haven't eaten peanuts, the smell and the taste can be odd and hard to ignore. We talked about what would happen, what we could do, and what we would do when it did happen. Yes, he went into anaphylaxis, but this time, once again, it was something we couldn't really control or prepare. This time, he had a delayed reaction by a few hours. It was hard for us to believe that once again, even though we had trained and prepared, we were hit out of left field by the unpredictable nature of food allergies. The study itself went fine. He would put the powder into pudding, and he would eat his sandy pudding nightly. The smell was weird, the taste was too, but he pushed on. We figured out if he ate something with a strong taste after, the weird taste went away. There was a few upset stomachs and a few itchy throats, but nothing like anaphylaxis. When he tested out, he ate the equivalent of 8 to 10 peanuts. It was amazing. I think he said that he had a scratchy throat, but that went away fast. Since he has finished, our life has become less about the food allergy. We don't have to train everyone. We don't have to prepare for the worst. He is able to eat things that say may contain or made in the same facility, which is huge. Candy and foods he had never tried before were suddenly there. He likes Chinese food. He likes M&Ms. He eats 3 honey roasted peanuts a day to keep the levels in his body. That means he can have about 1 bite of a food with peanut in it, a cookie, a sandwich. Can I go on?
You can go on.
Thank you. He knows what it tastes like, and he doesn't like to eat it, so he doesn't continue. But that's all that happens. We don't have to call 911 for this. Nothing happens to him, and he doesn't have to call 911. As his parents, to know that if he makes a mistake, because he will, he's a teenage boy, but now the consequences of eating a food won't include death. When he goes out with friends, he doesn't have to ask what's in the cake, where it's made, if the knife is clean before you use it, what kind of ice cream is in it, is there a warning label, all the prep questions that need to go into a party with non-allergic friends. He still carries epinephrine. I think it's because I'm a nag and it makes me feel better. I'm happy he can join in and seems to be able to be a teenager now, first and foremost, and not a food allergic teenager. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I am Charlie Porter, and I was brought here by AIMUN. So I'm here to talk today about a clinical trial that I underwent. And to me, this topic is so important that even as a junior in high school, the most intense year in almost any teenager's life, I am missing 2 full days of school, which may not sound like a lot, but it is. I'm also missing a robotics competition that I could be helping my team at to speak here. I've grown up a very generous life, loving parents, a good house, a good bed, good schooling, food on the table, and everything else. Yet that food on the table wasn't just any food. It had to have no peanuts, because at a young age, I was diagnosed with severe allergy to peanuts. Food allergy has always felt more like a curse than anything, because it impeded my life in a bunch of ways, most of which was at parties. Most of the time, I would have to bring myself some sort of treat, like Twinkies and stuff like that, because most kids wouldn't think a big deal of this, but to me, not sitting with my friends and eating cake, it was crushing. As a family, we were very cautious about the entire thing. Even if it just said may contain or made in the same facility, we still just wouldn't eat it. Probably the most crushing of times was Halloween, where most kids would have massive bags full of candy, and I would have to give up almost 50% of mine just because I couldn't eat it. The years were just painful. But then I found out about this trial from my parents one night. I discussed all the factors, including the one thing my 14-year-old mind was focused on: money. I accepted and went through with the trial, knowing that I would have to go into anaphylactic shock, but I was prepared. The main thing that made me want to study wasn't actually the money, but it was the end result. The chance of not having an allergy anymore, that was something that I had longed for 14 years. Before this trial, I was just a kid who had to not eat with friends, not eat certain foods, sit out of class parties, and everything else like that. But after the success of the trial, it turned me into a kid who could just hang out with my friends without having to worry about what I ate. Of course, I'm still a picky eater after. How this curse had, in a way, been lifted. One question that a lot of people ask is the risk worth it? What's the risk of the trial anyway? My answer to people thinking about this trial is just to look at the best and worst possible scenarios of the outcomes, and look at the chances of every sort of outcome that could happen. And in the end, if you're like me and definitely can't make decisions easily, I just remember my friend telling me to go and never stop whenever I'm not able to make a decision. In the end, this is the best thing that happened in my life so far, and I really want everyone to be able to experience what I call a scientific miracle. Thank you.
Thank you.